Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Bongani Majola. I'm the Deputy Prosecutor at the ICTR, and I am attending this gathering for the very first time, and I'm pleased, and it's a privilege for me to give you the brief update on the progress at the ICTR. The ICTR was established as a response to the genocide that took place in 1994 in Rwanda, where more than 500,000 people were killed. There were many rapes, there were many killings of very small children. And when Ben was speaking, I was thinking that history does repeat itself, because when you go to churches like Nyamata outside Kigali and Darama, you find skulls this small, of babies that were, that were killed there. But since this is an update, I'm just going to deal with a few issues. One is the progress that we've made since the last dialogue. We've disposed of 5 trials since then. No, 6 trials to be exact. 5 of those ended up with convictions, and one was an acquittal. It is significant, I think, that 2 of those cases were of soldiers, were the military people. Mvunyi, which was a retrial, he was convicted, and then there was also the trial of from Chautauqua, also from the military. There were 2 business people who were convicted. One was the manager of a parastatal tea factory, a case that we negotiated a guilty plea with one of the stars of the movie documentary we saw yesterday. And the other one was a proper businessman who's just recently been found guilty and sentenced. We have had 3 successful defense of appeals, and we lost 1 appeal on grounds that we thought perhaps we shouldn't have lost. In the Mvunyi trial, retrial, which I've spoken about, the appeals chamber had, I think, rightly ordered a retrial. In the Zikira and Razo case, we had hoped that the appeals chamber would have ordered a retrial because of the nature of the case, that the appeals chamber had found fault with the way the trial chamber had handled the case, but it acquitted, which I thought was a little bit insensitive to the plight of the victims in the case. But that's what under the bridge. We are going on with trials. In 2009, we had hoped that we would finish all our trials by September. That did not happen because of a number of reasons, and as a result, we got into 2010 with 8 ongoing trials, which included one of the multi-accused trials of Karamera and others. That trial is still going on, and it's expected now that it will be completed in May 2011. The trial consisted of 3 accused persons. Unfortunately, one of them died on the 30th of June this year, so it's going on with 2 accused persons. In addition, in August last year and in October, we arrested 2 fugitives who now require to be tried at the ICTR, which increases the trial workload that we've got to deal with before we complete. We have recently arrested another one, a low-level perpetrator in Uganda, Wingindi, and we are preparing papers to file an application for the referral of his case to Rwanda for trial there. And we hope that if we're successful, then we won't have to try this case. The case of and Nahimana was also in a similar mode, but because of the difficulties in getting a referral to Rwanda, it was decided that we should try the case there, and it is starting now in September. The case of the third arrestee, Zeymana, is a case of one of the people that are earmarked in our completion strategy for trial at the ICTR, and his case is going to start at the beginning of November. The progress in completing trials and completing trials has been slow, and it is slowed down by a number of factors. For example, in Karemera, we had Ndurumpatsa, one of the accused persons, being sick and for a long time, which meant that the case couldn't go on. There had been a decision by the trial chamber to sever the case of Ndurumpatsa from the case of the other two, but that was reversed on appeal, which meant that the case has to go on with all three accused persons. But then the trial chamber had to wait until Ndurumpatsa was better, and it's now continuing. But because of his state of health, it means that he cannot continue for the whole day. He can attend trial for a certain number of hours, and then he has to take a rest. We've had also fair trial issues being raised, for example, in Girvatwara trial, who is the son-in-law to Kapuga, where he fired, at some stage he fired his lead counsel, and the counsel that took over required time. Although the trial chamber told him that the case had a lot of time to prepare, he appealed, and the appeals chamber felt that he must be given time. And also, we had scheduling problems. Katete was supposed to, the trial of Katete was supposed to be finished on the 3rd of this month. It wasn't, because the clash, some judges which are trying Katete are involved now in other new cases, and as a result they are not able to sit in two cases, and so that has been postponed without trial. And then we had in Kenya the death of the lead counsel, which meant that the case couldn't start at the time that it was scheduled to start. It started later. And then there were other technical issues raised to the trial, issues of disclosure, that necessitated postponements, and that case delayed in coming to the conclusion. And finally, because of the often announced completion strategy, and that the tribunal will be closing, we are losing experienced staff with institutional memory, and as a result we find that some of the essential duties that have to be done are not done. This has been a case particularly with chambers and the writing of judgments. We were expecting a number of judgments in a number of multi-accused trials to be delivered before the end of this year, towards the end of the year. But we've been informed that because of staffing shortages in the judgment drafting department, that some of those cases will have to wait until the first half of next year. We are, however, hopeful that we will be able to complete our trials before the end of the first half of 2011. Perhaps I should stop there and say thank you.
Thank you.